UK re-entry ban. How long will you be out? Welcome back to another video. Today, we'll be looking into re-entry bans in the UK. Stay with us till the end as we'll be taking you through voluntary departure at the person's own expense, voluntary departure at the Secretary of State's expense, 2-year re-entry bans, 5-year re-entry bans, and 10-year re-entry bans. But first, make sure to follow us on Facebook via the link in the description box below, or the first pinned comment, and become a part of our growing community of over 4,000 followers. Let's get back to our today's video. When it comes to re-entry bans in the UK, the duration of the ban changes according to when and how a person exits the UK. Moreover, people who are subject to a 1-year, 5-year, or 10-year re-entry ban could be refused entry as they try to enter the UK. Let's take a look at the existing duration of re-entry bans. First off, we have the 1-year ban for people exiting the UK voluntarily within 30 days after their leave expires at their own expense. On the other hand, 2- or 5-year bans are for individuals exiting the UK voluntarily at the Home Office's expense. This is hugely dependent on how soon they depart, after receiving the notification of liability for removal. And at last there's the 10-year ban for individuals subject to enforced deportation or removal. Plus, this is for people who falsify their application. Moving on, let's talk about voluntary departure at the person's own expense. A person could be subjected to a mandatory 1-year re-entry ban if they fall under the following circumstances. They are illegal entrants, people who overstay their lawful leave by over 30 days, individuals who breach a condition of their leave, people who exit the UK voluntarily at their own expense, unless these individuals are applying for entry clearance as a family member or were 18 years old during their recent breach. Now, it's time to discuss voluntary departure at the expense of Secretary of State. People are subject to 2- or 5-year re-entry bans if they breach immigration laws and exit the UK voluntarily at the Secretary of State's expense. Don't forget it includes individuals who leave the UK through an assisted voluntary return (AVR) program. A voluntary departure at the Secretary of State's expense is when people exit the UK voluntarily using a flight ticket bought by the Secretary of State. Let's look closer at the 2-year re-entry bans. People who leave the UK voluntarily at the Secretary of State's expense face a mandatory 2-year re-entry ban if their departure date was no more than 6 months after the date when they received the notice of their removal decision, or it's been no more than 6 months since their appeal against the removal decision ceased to exist. It all depends on whichever comes later. So, what are 5-year re-entry bans? People are subject to a mandatory 5-year re-entry ban if they exit the UK voluntarily at the Secretary of State's expense over 6 months after receiving the notice of their removal decision, or more than 6 months after their subsequent appeal rights are exhausted. Again, it all depends on whichever comes at a later date. What's interesting to note here is that the 6-month time window in which an individual must depart to face a 2-year re-entry ban instead of a 5-year re-entry ban could be reset to begin again. In the end, we'll discuss 10-year re-entry bans. Interestingly, an individual who faces a deportation order cannot enter the UK when the order is still effective. You can check the immigration rules to learn the criteria for revoking a deportation order. A foreign national who gets a deportation order can revoke it by applying to the Home Office from outside the UK after getting deported. A person faces a 10-year re-entry ban if they were non-voluntarily removed from the UK, at the public expense. In case you were wondering, enforced removal is when a person doesn't leave the UK voluntarily and is forced to return by the department. Here, you should know that the authorities can detain such people before they depart from the UK. In addition to this, people get banned from re-entering for 10 years if they falsify their application. We have reached the end of today's video update. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for the latest updates. Thanks for watching.